You're about to enter a world where the lines between good and evil are blurred, where the darkest corners of the human mind are exposed, and where the most sinister tactics are used to manipulate and control others. This is the realm of dark psychology, a place where the innocent are preyed upon, and the vulnerable are exploited. It's a world that's both fascinating and terrifying, and one that we must understand in order to protect ourselves and those we care about. As we delve into the world of dark psychology, it's essential to understand that it's not just about the extremes of human behavior, but also about the subtle and insidious ways in which people can be manipulated and controlled. One of the most significant aspects of dark psychology is the concept of gaslighting, a tactic used to make someone question their own sanity or perception of reality. This can be done through denial, blame shifting, or even projection, where the manipulator accuses the victim of doing something that they themselves are guilty of. A classic example of gaslighting is the story of a woman who was in a relationship with a man who consistently denied his infidelity, despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary. He would tell her that she was paranoid, that she was imagining things, and that she was the one who was crazy. Over time, the woman began to doubt her own sanity, and she started to question her own perception of reality. Another key aspect of dark psychology is the concept of emotional manipulation, where someone uses guilt, anger, or self-pity to control and influence others. This can be done through subtle comments, passive-aggressive behavior, or even outright emotional blackmail. For instance, a friend might use guilt to get you to do something you don't want to do, by saying something like, "If you really cared about me, you'd do this for me." This type of emotional manipulation can be incredibly effective, especially if the person being manipulated is empathetic or people-pleasing. A great example of emotional manipulation is the story of a mother who used guilt to control her adult child's decisions. She would constantly remind her child of all the sacrifices she had made for them, and how they owed her their loyalty and obedience. Over time, the child began to feel trapped and obligated to their mother, and they lost sight of their own needs and desires. As we explore the world of dark psychology, it's also important to understand the concept of narcissistic personality disorder, a condition characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a lack of empathy, and a need for admiration and attention. Narcissists often use manipulative tactics to get what they want, including charm, coercion, and even aggression. A classic example of a narcissist is the story of a businessman who would stop at nothing to get ahead, even if it meant stepping on others. He would use his charm and charisma to win people over, and then discard them when they were no longer useful to him. He had no empathy or remorse for his actions, and he saw himself as the only person who truly mattered. In addition to these tactics, dark psychology also involves the use of mind games, where someone uses psychological manipulation to influence and control others. This can include tactics like love bombing, where someone showers you with attention and affection in the beginning of a relationship, only to withdraw it later and use it as a means of control. It can also include tactics like triangulation, where someone uses a third person to manipulate and control two other people. For instance, a person might use a mutual friend to spread rumors or gossip about someone they're trying to manipulate. A great example of mind games is the story of a couple who were in a relationship with a manipulative partner. The partner would constantly play games with them, using tactics like love bombing and triangulation to keep them in a state of emotional turmoil. The couple was constantly walking on eggshells, never knowing what would trigger the partner's next outburst or manipulation. Furthermore, dark psychology also involves the concept of psychological projection, where someone attributes their own thoughts, feelings, or behaviors to someone else. This can be a powerful tool for manipulation, as it allows the manipulator to deflect attention away from their own wrongdoing and onto the victim. For example, a person who is cheating on their partner might accuse their partner of being unfaithful, in order to shift the focus away from their own infidelity. A classic example of psychological projection is the story of a politician who was caught in a scandal, and then accused their opponent of being corrupt. the politician was able to deflect attention away from their own wrongdoing and onto their opponent by using psychological projection. As we continue to explore the world of dark psychology, it's essential to understand the concept of cognitive dissonance, a state of mental tension that occurs when someone holds two conflicting beliefs or values. This can be used to manipulate people into adopting a particular belief or behavior, by creating a sense of discomfort or dissonance that can only be resolved by conforming to the desired behavior. For instance, a cult leader might use cognitive dissonance to recruit new members, by creating a sense of guilt or shame in people who don't conform to their beliefs. A great example of cognitive dissonance is the story of a person who was recruited into a cult and then realized that the cult's beliefs were contradictory to their own values. The person experienced a strong sense of cognitive dissonance and was forced to either conform to the cult's beliefs or leave the cult altogether. In addition to these concepts, dark psychology also involves the use of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, a technique used to influence and control people's thoughts and behaviors through language and suggestion. This can include tactics like anchoring, where someone uses a particular word or phrase to anchor a specific emotion or response. It can also include tactics like mirroring, where someone mimics the body language or speech patterns of another person in order to build rapport and influence them. A classic example of neuro-linguistic programming is the story of a salesman who used anchoring to influence his customers' purchasing decisions. He would use certain words or phrases to anchor a sense of excitement or urgency, and then use that anchor to influence the customer's decision to buy. Another key aspect of dark psychology is the concept of trauma bonding, a phenomenon where two people form a strong emotional bond as a result of shared traumatic experiences. This can be used to manipulate and control people, especially in situations where there is a power imbalance. For instance, a person might use trauma bonding to control a romantic partner by creating a sense of shared trauma or vulnerability. A great example of trauma bonding is the story of a couple who met in a support group for survivors of abuse. They formed a strong emotional bond as a result of their shared experiences, and then used that bond to manipulate and control each other. As we near the end of our journey into the world of dark psychology, it's essential to understand the concept of Machiavellianism, a personality trait characterized by cunning, manipulation, and a lack of empathy. People with Machiavellian tendencies often use dark psychology tactics to achieve their goals, including manipulation, coercion, and even aggression. A classic example of Machiavellianism is the story of a business leader who would stop at nothing to get ahead, including using manipulation and coercion to eliminate their competitors. They had no qualms about using dark psychology tactics to achieve their goals, and they saw themselves as the only person who truly mattered. In conclusion, the world of dark psychology is a complex and fascinating place, full of subtle and insidious tactics used to manipulate and control others. It's a world that requires us to be vigilant and aware, to protect ourselves and those we care about from the forces of darkness that seek to exploit and harm us. As you've learned from this video, dark psychology is not just about the extremes of human behavior, but also about the subtle and everyday ways in which people can be manipulated and controlled. So, the next time you encounter someone who is using dark psychology tactics, remember that you have the power to resist and to protect yourself. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, to set boundaries, and to seek help when you need it. By educating yourself about dark psychology, you can take back control of your life and your relationships, and you can live a life that is free from manipulation and coercion. So, take the first step today, and start to learn more about the world of dark psychology. Your life and your well-being depend on it.